Real Talk with Jodi and Michal. Real friends, real situations, real life. Authentic chats from the heart to the gut. Two best friends keeping it raw, real, and relatable.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of Real Talk with Jodi and Michal. I am your one host, Michal Offer, functional nutrition consultant, and I'm here with one of my longest friends. I like to say oldest, but that doesn't always sound right. One of the friends I've had probably for the longest time, and colleague, and just great human being. Jodi Greenblatt, I'll let you introduce
Thank you,
yourself.
Michal. Thank you for saying all those nice things. We have known each other a long time. I'm Jodi Greenblatt, relationship and empowerment coach. That I have a program, Empower Her Transformation, based on my knowledge as an experience as a licensed marriage and family therapist, and also now relationship coach.
And I'm so excited to be part of this journey of yours with you, and to have you as part of my journey, this part of my journey with me. It's absolutely fabulous. And it's been an entire week since we've talked. So what's going on in your world?
Well, I actually, since you just mentioned again about us being such long-term friends, exciting thing happening tomorrow. I am having breakfast with an old friend or longtime friend from high school that neither you nor I has probably seen for literally decades. But as you and I always say, there's something about those old friends, you can just pick it right back up. Um, so he happens to be in town for business, happened to connect. It's just the most random of circumstances that we happened to get in touch with each other, and super exciting. We'll be meeting for breakfast tomorrow.
I look forward to seeing a picture.
Okay, for sure, for
It's
sure.
always interesting, when you see people you haven't seen in decades from high school. It's always interesting
Yeah.
to me. Some people look exactly the same, like you, and other people, and Jodi does. She looked exactly the same in high school. Sometimes she had a little bit of a fringe, but
Mm.
most of the time she didn't. And she looked exactly like that. No glasses, but exactly
No
like that.
glasses, that's right. That yes,
Yeah,
I didn't get glasses until university.
yeah,
Funny thing, when he called me last week, video chatted. So again, remember seeing each other first time in like 30 years or
yeah,
so. First thing he said to me, he said, God, you haven't changed.
yeah.
And I said, I never tire of hearing that.
It's a great compliment when it gets to a couple of decades after high school, right?
For
Anyway,
sure,
it's
for
it's
sure.
just always interesting. Well, that's super. That's exciting. I mean, it's exciting. It probably doesn't sound like that to anyone who's listening who's much younger, but I promise you, when it gets to a little bit of time, and we've all, being South African, most of us have
Yes,
first. So we know it's not like we see each other or we run in the same circles as most people anymore,
yes.
especially depending on where we landed and how we landed. So seeing people from high school is exciting.
It is.
It's a
It does.
blast from the past.
It is exactly. And like you say, some people might not relate if they're younger. Some people finish high school and really don't look back, don't want to know, don't have a connection. But I think the South African factor, having emigrated, does keep us excited when we stumble upon or happen upon or hear about what is happening with other people, because many of us left the country, left South Africa right after high school. So it was like this additional layer of how come we're not in touch with our high school classmates. He went to Australia originally and is now in the US. So, many of us have different paths. We talked about this. You
Yeah,
went to Canada,
yeah.
you're now in the US. I'm in the US. I was in California, now Florida. So we all have this history. So reconnecting has that extra layer of excitement. And me personally, I love reconnecting with people. Love it, love it, love it. No matter what level of friendship or acquaintanceship. acquaintance we had. Um, and I'll tell you, the universe is bringing people back into my life somehow. It's really quite interesting. You and I have, as you've mentioned on a previous episode, have always been friends, and we've always, no matter how much time in between, we always reconnect, pick it right back up. And there have been times in between where we've gone not being in touch, not for any negative reason, just our lives have just happened and come back again late. And now you and I are really collaborating. This is something new, that us collaborating on this level. I've just mentioned my friend that I'll be meeting tomorrow for breakfast. Another coincidence, another friend since 9 years old called me up about a month ago. His wife and daughter are going to be in Florida. Can they stay at me? So I've had guests here, old friends that I've known forever. And she reminded me, I knew this, but this is what's fun about reconnecting. She reminded me, I did know, she was in my brother's class. They went through high school together. So these connections are just amazing. I love it. The universe is bringing me, there are others as well, other examples. I won't go into all of them, but the universe seems to be bringing old friends back into my life lately.
Oh,
I'm loving it.
that's nice to hear. And yeah, reconnecting. You know, when you share a history with somebody, especially after immigration, because I know I've happened to be in when I left South Africa, I didn't go to Toronto where there's a big South African community or to Vancouver. I went to Calgary, very small
Mm,
South African community.
mhm.
And there's things that we share in our past that are easier to communicate with people who shared similar experiences.
So
And
experiences, culture.
yeah, there's something to be said when you move, that there's a lot of conversations that I can't have, or a lot of explanations that I need to give about my past, because it's so different.
Mhm.
Even something as simple as TV shows, right?
Mhm,
That
mhm.
because we didn't get the same TV shows, and
Right.
people are talking about references. Seinfeld is a big one. We never got Seinfeld until almost the time that I left, until the late 1990s in,
Oh,
in South
interesting.
Africa. And culturally, Seinfeld in North America is a big deal,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I never watched it. I never got into it simply because it just right. I didn't grow up with it. So the cultural references, it's like I don't understand. Or
It
I Dream of
definitely
Jeannie,
happens with it.
or some of these strange shows, even McDonald's, even literally McDonald's, because we didn't grow up with McDonald's,
No,
right?
no.
So the whole fast food, although we had our own fast food, it was
But not
different.
McDonald's. McDonald's is an entity unto its
Yes,
own.
it
Yeah,
was
even things like Sesame Street. And when I first came to this country back in 93,
uh,
94, um, the concept of TV being on 24 hours a day was huge for me. We didn't have that. And I stumbled upon I Love Lucy, black and white reruns and a channel that just keeps rerunning it. So that concept of just reruns constantly on a channel was new.
yes.
I Love Lucy, to your point about that was a show that Americans know. To me, it was amazing. What is the show?
Yeah.
And I just was glued to the TV when I first came here, just watching I Love Lucy.
Yeah, it's crazy,
Yeah.
crazy times. Food, culture, memories, the whole bit. And I think that's why reconnecting is is so special. But I'm sure people aren't listening simply to hear about how old we are and all of
Well,
the
it's relationships. It really does speak to
well,
relationships
that
and connection.
Yes. So that's what I wanted to actually talk to you about today, because in our last few episodes, we've spoken about some really important things on the negative side of relationships. So, we've spoken about toxicity in relationships. We've spoken about certain words and like gaslighting and how poor relationships make you feel. And I thought today, and especially in light of this, so with your news, it makes me feel even more excited about the topic is talking about, what does a positive relationship look like? What does a positive relationship feel like? And it's a positive relationship, obviously beginning with yourself, but how does that translate into positive relationships with other people? And it's not always the people that it is the people that you're closest to, or your partner, or your spouse, of course, but it's also even those passing relationships, or those simple reconnections, or those acquaintances. How do we how, how do we understand what a positive relationship looks like? And last week we spoke about gut feelings and about how people can make us feel icky, but then what about those other feelings where people can actually make us feel good about ourselves? And is there a time of euphoria? Perhaps, when you first fall in love, sometimes we're blind to things with all of these feelings. And how do we differentiate that from a really, a positive or a reinforcing relationship? So for you, when your expertise is absolutely in relationships with self and very much with others, how would you define a positive relationship?
A lot of qualities in a positive relationship, and I'll expand, but I'll first start with things like having empathy, the ability to understand what another person is experiencing, the ability to want to understand and be willing to hear what another person is saying, even if it's different than what you think, believe, feel, want to do, which brings me right to another huge positive attribute in a healthy, good relationship is open communication, vulnerability, ability to navigate conflict, and that's where empathy comes in too, because you're going to have two people coming together, whether it's a romantic relationship, a friendship, an acquaintance, it doesn't matter. Two people are coming together with two different ways of seeing things, two different lenses through which they see the world, two different ideas. There's going to be a constant navigation of what do you want, and what do we want together. So how do you navigate that? It has to be through communication and not making assumptions and being able to express yourself. So that's another factor in a healthy relationship, feeling emotionally safe enough to express yourself, to say your thoughts and feelings without fear of being judged, without fear of being attacked, without fear that your partner is going to get defensive. Walking on eggshells, that's the opposite of walking on eggshells, is what I want to be saying. So being able to be vulnerable and say when something doesn't feel right to you, to your partner, the partner being able to hear you without defensiveness, even if they think something different. So both parties being able to hear each other, acknowledge each other, and then from there decide, okay, what do we do now with our differences? That is difficult to do. That is actually very difficult to do. I've talked about conflict there, but also just as important is being able to express your thoughts and feelings on the positive end, continuing to be kind to your partner, noticing the good, mentioning the good, saying what you appreciate in your partner. That's also difficult to do. It sounds easy when I say it, but it's actually also very difficult to do.
Why do you think that is?
Number of reasons. I think we're not accustomed to it. I think it's vulnerable. It's as vulnerable as it is to say, hey, I didn't feel so good when you
Whatever.
look, yeah. Or, hey, can you help around here? I'm the one always cleaning up, because that's potential for conflict, potential for blow up. As hard as that is to say, it's just as vulnerable to say, hey, I really appreciated it when you made me breakfast the other day. It really is a vulnerable thing to say. You're putting yourself at risk of being hurt, because now there's all kinds of things. Now your partner knows what you like. That means now they can take it away by not doing it. So that can be a vulnerable feeling. And I think sometimes we tend to, as humans, focus on the negative. We forget to focus on the positive. I think sometimes it can just be, didn't think of saying the good.
Yeah, we fixate on the negative,
Mhm.
a lot. Like I
Mhm.
always talk about, we always make jokes about reviews, right? So when you're in business, reviews are everything. And you can have hundreds of positive reviews. Every single review that you get can be absolutely
Mhm.
glowing. And then you get one bad one. And then your life is destroyed because all you focus on is
Is
the
the negative.
poor review. I think something else, there were two things that came up from everything that you said.
Yeah.
What you just said recently, I think something that's as important as being able to appreciate what you like is also being able to accept a compliment.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Very
Right?
closely.
And because by not accepting a compliment, I really believe we're minimizing somebody else's feelings or the importance that somebody else placed on something. So
Yes.
I really appreciate that you made me breakfast the other day. Oh, it was nothing.
Yes. 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 It does. It dismisses what the person is saying. There's another layer to that. You're dismissing yourself when that happens. If someone gives you a compliment, whether it's a compliment about the way you look, a compliment about something you did, made breakfast, if you don't accept the compliment, you're deflecting something positive about yourself. It's almost like you cannot, it's hard to see yourself a certain way. It's hard to take that in. It's hard to be good to yourself. And now we're starting to get to like your relationship with yourself. That's so important.
And that was going to be my
Your
second
segue.
there was how do we learn to appreciate ourselves, to communicate well with ourselves, to be vulnerable with ourselves. And I think this has come up as as a thread in every conversation that we've had, but it's not something we're taught. And I think especially as women, we're taught to minimize ourselves and make ourselves small. I really believe that on many, many levels, culturally, societally, we're taught that, all the words around powerful women are not positive words, or not all. Many of the words around powerful women are
Give some
not positive
examples. What are you
words,
thinking of?
like bitch,
Mm,
right? Like if a
mm-hmm,
woman is assertive,
mm-hmm,
she's often considered bitchy.
mm-hmm,
Right? If a woman knows what she wants, same thing. There's other words around that, but that's a big one. That's one that's bandied around, a lot.
mm-hmm,
And rather than, oh wow, she's really in control of the situation. She knows how to manage a room, right? Her communication skills are good. She's very good at boundary setting. No, 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 no. There's a lot more of the negative talk
mm-hmm,
around. So we're taught to minimize ourselves. And if you look, it's really difficult for women to break through that because you have to learn how to deal with that as well as learning about your own power. So how do you begin
mm-hmm.
having a good relationship with yourself?
Mm. And I'm glad you said begin because it is truly an ongoing process. And if you haven't had that good relationship, you don't even know what it is actually. It's actually hard to understand relationship with self. So I might um, say it in terms of if you think about what you give to a friend or what you give to a partner, you care about their feelings, you ask them how their day was, you want to do things for them, you want to share things with them. So look at those basic things. How do we do that for ourselves? Do you, so let's translate the way you would ask a partner, how was your day? Do you ever check in with yourself at the end of the day and go, how did I feel today? What let me reflect on my day, what went well, how did I feel during that interaction that happened at work, and really get in touch with yourself about that. Instead, what we do is we go about our day, we get busy, We deal with things like maybe we had an uncomfortable moment at work or a bad interaction with a coworker. We deal with it and we move on because we just have to. Life gets busy. We just keep going. But stop, reflect, think about how you felt. Think about, do you want to do something about it? Do you want to go back the next day and say something to that coworker? Think it through really carefully, the same way you would want somebody to talk to you and check on you. So all of those things that you're giving to other people emotionally, physically, let's even think physically, taking care of yourself. Physically would mean getting enough sleep, eating healthily, exercising. Are you doing hobbies? Are you doing things you enjoy? That's relationship with self from a physical perspective. So it's a constant inner focus. And I think my simplest way to say it is what you would do for other people, are you doing it for yourself? That would be a starting point.
Okay, so then on a higher level,
Mm-hmm.
what types of behaviors would we look at from a more advanced perspective of nurturing the relationship with ourselves? And I'm trying not to use the word self-care because I think that's become very cliched.
I also try not to use it.
Um,
Self-care, self-love. Yeah, self-love and self-love is misleading. I mean, it's worth talking about it just from the concept of how it's not useful, because I think too many times people see self-love and they go, I love myself. I like myself. Just in terms of feeling like they love themselves, they like who they are. But that really, people today, what you really are trying to get to is, do you have that relationship with yourself? Are you really taking care of yourself the way you would somebody else, the way you would a child? If you were taking care of a child, what would you give them? You would give them love. You would give them time. You would take care of nourishing them. You would ask them what they like to do and play with them. How do you translate that to yourself? So you're saying on a higher level.
yes, so on a deeper level,
Mm-hmm.
not,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's high or low. I just think we get, as we get good at the basics, we
Mm-hmm.
want to dig a little deeper, maybe.
Mm-hmm. I think maybe now we're looking at things like boundaries. So the same way you would, again, I'm going to keep saying, the same way you would respect somebody else's boundaries. So let me translate that, because that's another, I really try, as we may have discussed here before, I really try not to use words like boundaries, triggers, self-love, because what does it really mean? How do we understand it? We might all see it differently. So when I say boundaries, I'm going to say it in terms of when you respect someone else's boundaries, you are doing something along the lines of being aware of what they like and don't like and respecting it. If somebody, somebody is, let's take a simple example. Somebody is a late sleeper. You're going to probably not call them too early in the morning. So let's translate that. What would your internal boundary be around that? Maybe that means you like to sleep late. On weekends you need your rest. So then a friend asked you to help them at the crack of dawn on Sunday morning, and you really don't want to, but out of guilt, out of obligation, out of not knowing what to say because you don't know how to navigate it, you don't know what words to use, you don't know how to let down your friend, you don't want to disappoint them. You don't want to disappoint them. Why? Because then you don't want them to be mad at you. There's just so much involved in that. And so what do you end up doing? Sure, I'll be there at 6 a.m., but deep down, you don't want to do that. So that is like your relationship with yourself would be checking in with yourself. Do I really want to do this? I'm not saying don't be unkind. I'm not saying be unkind. I'm not saying never help a friend if it's inconvenient. But the part about self-relationship would be checking in with yourself. What do I really want to do here? And just making a sound decision. Do I want to wake up early, or do I want to kindly decline?
Got it. Well, I think, and as you were speaking, I agree with
Mhm.
you. I just wanted to say the simplest boundary about wanting to sleep in
Mm-hmm.
is turn off your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Turn off your
Mhm.
phone. That's really one of the simplest things that we can do, because then you're not all sleep with your phone in a different room, which is much healthier for you, by the way.
Yeah,
But
for a number of reasons, actually. Not having that light,
the
the
light, the EMF can disrupt your sleep patterns. But
mm,
that's for a whole that's a whole other
mhm,
conversation. But really, removing ourselves from our phones
mhm,
will allow you to sleep in. Then
mhm,
if somebody is calling you at
mhm.
6 a.m. on a Sunday morning, you would know.
Yeah,
So it doesn't,
doesn't conflict with your
yeah,
difficulty to say no. Yeah, you're
yeah,
simply that's an internal boundary. That is taking
right.
care of yourself.
And from my perspective, that's where taking care of yourself starts, because
Mm,
I think we have more difficulty setting external boundaries if we can't set internal boundaries.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Right. The same way, I think if we have poor, and you could disagree with me, but for the most part, if we have a poor relationship with ourselves, it's going to translate into not being able to have positive or encouraging or supportive relationships with others, because
people.
we don't show up in a way
Mm-hmm,
where we support, where you put your own oxygen mask on first, literally, where
yeah,
you support yourself. So I'll
mm,
give you an example of one of my strongest boundaries that everybody laughs at me now.
mm,
And I never really saw it as such, but
yeah,
I go to bed at around 10 o'clock at night.
mm-hmm,
That's what I do.
mm-hmm.
It's pretty non-negotiable,
Okay.
right? If somebody wants me to go out late at night, like where I'll be out later than that, my first response is it stresses me out and I want to say no, always. And I've learned to, unless it's important or it's
Yeah.
something that I really would want to do. If it's a
Yeah.
lecture I want to listen to, or some people I really want to hang out with, or something to
Yeah.
that
Flexibility is
that
still there.
effect. So,
Mm-hmm,
so then I know it's probably going to stress me out a little bit, because I go to bed at 10 o'clock, and anybody who knows me knows I'm quite rigid with my routine. But it's all going to be worth it. And this
mm-hmm,
translates to my philosophy around food as well, which again, another time to talk about. And people laugh at me. They say, I know I'm asking you to be out late, but right? Everybody knows you don't call me. At quarter to 10, my phone goes off.
okay.
You don't call me. If for some reason I'm up, for whatever reason it might be, I
Mm-hmm,
might respond to you, but generally I don't,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
Because that's my boundary. And people can laugh at me.
Yeah.
I don't care. People
Mm-hmm,
can make fun of me. That's great. I make fun of myself. I go to bed I wake up really early in the morning too, but I
mm-hmm,
go to bed at this time at night. My
mm-hmm.
husband even knows if he's going to come home late, he's like, I know, and the dogs always bark when somebody walks in. He goes, I'm trying to be there before you go to bed because I
Yeah.
don't want the
Yeah.
dogs to bark. And I share that simply because I think it's important to understand that even simple things like that
Mm-hmm,
can translate into other things. And when it's something small and you get used to the resistance, so to speak, for lack of a better term, that you get from other people, and you stand firm with yourself,
mm-hmm,
eventually people either respect your boundaries, or they're not that you want to deal if that you want to
mm-hmm.
deal with. Right. If it's somebody that consistently and constantly, and I'll see in my phone the next day, is calling me at 10:30 at night, right? I'm probably not going to answer your phone call right away. I'm also not going to rush to respond to you, because I'm not a like my feeling, like that my time isn't a priority to you, so your time isn't going to be a priority.
Mm-hmm.
It tends
You're saying this would be someone that knows that you.
no, and I,
Mm-hmm,
I have someone who does that, and I
mm-hmm,
have friends in multiple time zones, and I understand that
mm-hmm,
people get confused with the time zones.
mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm,
for the most part,
mm-hmm,
this person really knows
mm-hmm,
in their time zone and in mine
mm-hmm.
what time I go to bed.
Do they
And
expect you to pick up?
well, they call.
Um,
They don't leave a message, they call.
uh-huh,
And so it's not because I have something to tell you. I didn't
uh-huh.
send you a WhatsApp or a text so that you'll read it when you wake up.
Okay,
They call.
okay.
So either you're actually trying to wake me up, or you want to talk to me, or
Yeah.
it's just not important. My boundary is not important to you, which is
Yeah.
fine. It's not
Yes.
a fight against them, but it just
Yes.
shows that that's not important to you. And I might reciprocate in kind by taking that person off the super duper high priority list and bringing them down a couple of rungs, because I think respect and boundaries are reciprocated. It
Absolutely.
was just a real life example of simplicity.
Yeah. And
And
I'm going to add to that
sure.
because it's I totally hear what you're saying. It's not
Yeah,
negating what you're saying, but I'm going to say and just given my perspective is always what other possibilities are there. So in today's time where phones, texting, everything is available 24/7. There is the possibility, again, I'm not saying in your case necessarily because it sounds like there's a
sure.
specific situation,
Yeah.
but for us not to make assumptions, because this is also part of
Sure.
healthy relationships, not making assumptions.
And that's what I
It-
said, sorry to interrupt you, but that's,
Mhm.
we work in different time zones, and
Exactly.
I understand, right? I understand that sometimes it's just, oh, gee, I didn't pay attention, or this
100%.
isn't something that's happened once.
No, that's why I say yours is a specific thing. I'm not negating what you're saying. It sounds like it's a specific situation that you know the person's
Yes.
motivation, MO, whatever you want to call it. Just to continue on what we were saying about healthy relationships in general is not making assumptions because there are some people that just might, again, to what I was talking about, some people might just see things differently. Some people might just see things as, I know they don't pick up their phone after a certain time. I'm still going to send a text. I know your situation is different. There was no text or message.
No,
I'm
no,
going to still send a text. I'm still going to call because um, I'm going to forget to call in the morning. And I just want them to get that message when they wake up.
absolutely.
So again, not exactly the same situation as you, but just to make the point about we do need to take everybody's perspective into account. Making assumptions can be detrimental.
Yeah. But I
Yeah.
also want to add something to the scenario.
Yeah.
I have said something about it.
Uh,
There has been, I have communicated about it,
mhm.
and not in a, like in an insulting way, not in a I can't believe
Was
you.
it a request or informational? Like, hey, I don't
Yes,
really pick
I
up my
said,
phone.
I noticed that you called me at 11 a.m. at 11
11
p.m.
p.m.
I go to bed at 10, right? And she laughs and she's like, yes, I know you go to bed at 10. And she does. It's
Uh-huh.
because, as I said, it's with the
Well, now
people.
that we're getting deep into this, do you know her reason for nonetheless calling you, knowing you weren't going to pick up?
She didn't know I was going to pick up. I wasn't going to pick up. She didn't look at the time, and it didn't concern her.
She didn't look at the time. Okay. Yeah.
Now it's nighttime and it's dark and it's late, right? If I'm it's I don't know, and I'm not saying that the way that I do it is right or wrong. I'm
Mhm.
simply saying this is my boundary, and it
I
happened.
was, yes, that's what I'm hearing, that to you, that boundary is important. And
Me,
to your point, you feel like that's an area everybody knows that about you. It feels respectful to you if somebody honors your boundary, so
mhm,
that's where it's coming from. And that's the other thing about boundaries and about healthy relationships. What's acceptable to one person, it might not be to another. So healthy relationships can also, the characteristics of how respect looks, how boundaries look, how communication looks, can be based on personal values, can be based on societal norms, can be based on context within that relationship. So a lot of factors. This is the thing with human beings. We are complex, and every different combination of interactions has its own set of unspoken rules.
right. And I will say, with regards to boundaries, some boundaries are much easier to set and uphold than others.
True.
And it's
Mhm.
not, I mean, I'm sure you have some in your life that are difficult for you or challenging for you. I know I have some in mind that can, in certain situations, and and again, for you, it's situational,
Mhm.
are really challenging, are really, really challenging. And I think many people, depending on the situation, I think one of the biggest issues that they have is that beautiful, wonderful, complete sentence of no,
Mm.
right? And you use the scenario about getting up early in the morning to help a friend.
Mhm.
Really hard to say no
Mhm.
because of all of the emotional baggage that we attach to that word, the fear of
That's what
rejection, the fear of alienation,
that's
the
what it's
fear of
about.
being seen as a bad person,
Yes.
right? The fear of being seen as uncaring.
Yes.
And again,
And that full sentence no doesn't have to be an unkind no, done, put down the phone. You
yeah,
know, it can be said in a kind way, like, hey, I'd love to help you. But that just doesn't work for me because
and believe it or not, that line, that doesn't work for me.
you don't like
For
it.
me, was a
So,
game changer.
oh,
Right?
yeah, yeah,
Long ago, I was much, much younger, but it was easier for me to say that than I don't want to.
right, right,
I
right.
don't want to is hard because it's
Yeah.
taking absolute responsibility for your decision.
Mm,
I don't want to. Now, there's
mm-hmm,
certain people that that's easy to say that to. Right?
mm-hmm.
Sometimes, if your boss is asking you to do something and you don't want to, like stay late, it's really hard to say, I don't want
I
to.
don't want to, not going to do that.
It's easy to say, unfortunately, that doesn't work for me tonight.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Much, much easier.
Yeah, and it kind of leaves this gap of not needing to explain why, and sometimes we don't need to explain why.
Right. And it also leaves that the explanation could be, I don't want to.
True,
So
exactly.
it's not a
You're
lie
saying
as
it's a bit of a
such.
cop out. Yeah, it's not as direct.
Yeah, it's opening the door to interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, I don't believe is always the best way to communicate in relationships. And you would probably agree with me. We need to be direct.
Mm-hmm.
But in certain situations, it can be the baby steps towards some boundaries or preserving certain types of relationships.
Yeah,
Like you, if you said to your boss, I don't want to,
yeah.
that might, depending on the relationship with your boss, it might not go over so well.
Yeah, that could now in a work environment be considered insubordinate. So
Yeah.
yeah, while direct communication is healthy, direct doesn't have to be unkind. Some people, again, even if we're talking about couples, we can be direct, but if we know our partner well enough in terms of how things land for them when you speak, yeah, it's worth changing your words. It doesn't mean you're being dishonest. It doesn't mean you're being indirect. As long as you're still being direct and honest, you can change your words so that it lands well with the person you're speaking to.
So I always have used the phrase speak in my coaching practice is
Yeah.
to someone's listening.
Say that again. Speak to
Speak
someone's
to someone's
listening.
listening. Because
Oh,
I will say
okay.
something and I can say it to five people
Yeah.
and it will land five different ways. It might
Correct.
be very slight, the nuance
Yeah.
might be slight, but
Mhm.
it'll land five different ways. And I believe one of the lessons in becoming a better and a better coach is learning how somebody hears you. So
Mhm.
speaking to their listening. And if I were, and I'm just going to use a very crass example,
Mhm.
right? Oh, hey, Jodi, I haven't seen you for 6 months. I can see you've put on some weight, right? Number one, that's unkind. Number two, your defenses are going to go straight up and you're going to say, "Yeah, but I've been really straight." Like you're going to get defensive, and anything else that comes out of my mouth after that,
Will not be well
no,
received.
it's not
Mhm.
even well received. It might not even be received. You've shut
Mm.
me down. I'm attacking you, right? Your wall goes up, and
Mhm.
our relationship, our communication in that situation,
Mhm.
over,
Mhm.
right? Is absolutely over. Whereas
Mhm.
I can say, how have the last few months been for you, right? Right, and open it up for you to tell me.
Mhm.
And then we can, and I'm talking for me as a coach, as somebody who's looking at your weight, and we can discuss that. And I can say, all right, so how has that affected your food?
Mm-hmm.
You're right. And have the conversation in a much more cushioned way will elicit a much better response and allow me to encourage some change in some way, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to saying, you're wrong, I'm right, you got to do what I say.
Yeah, it's more open. It encourages more openness
Right.
versus the defensiveness that you first alluded to.
Absolutely. And something else that I learned, and again, you might know this or not know this. I did some NLP training, and NLP is neuro linguistic programming, and it's how, on the very basic level, it's how a word can impact your subconscious in your brain. And one of the ones that always stood out to me was the word no, because we have the word KNOW
Ah,
and we have the word no.
uh-huh.
And they both sound exactly the same. They have absolutely different meanings,
Yeah.
but they sound exactly the same.
Yeah.
However, your subconscious brain doesn't look at meaning. It looks at the very basics. It's this very carnal system
Yeah.
that functions on the most basic of things. It's our survival system. And it hears, it doesn't interpret. We've spoken about
Okay.
this a little bit before.
Uh-huh.
So when it hears the word no,
Yeah.
it interprets it as NO. Pretty much always. So think about this. This is like super duper interesting. And I know it's a little bit off topic,
No, but totally interesting. Go
but
ahead. Going.
you're having a conversation with someone and they start saying, yeah, I know, I know, I know. What your brain hears and what their brain hears is, I have no interest in what you're saying. No,
Makes
our
so much
conversation is done.
sense.
Listen carefully and watch people when you have this. And I think this is important in relationships because and my husband and I have discussed this for many, many years, and it's changed the way we communicate with each
Yeah.
other for our own benefit. So I no
Yeah.
longer say, I know, or I know you, or anything. We choose, and there's so many, we've used this about
Yeah.
emotions. There's so many words in the English language. I
Wow.
understand, I hear, it makes sense to me that.
Yeah.
And as opposed to the word no. And I've put that into my coaching practice.
Uh-huh.
And for me, it makes a difference. It encourages me to speak, and I would assume, and assume is not the
Uh,
best thing to do, you know.
well, you're making a guess. No, I think you're using
So
that a
I
little
would
bit
guess
differently.
that
Mm-hmm.
it's landing differently for my clients as well.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I make an effort
Yeah.
to use the word KNOW
Yeah.
as little as possible. There's other
Yes.
words as well, and again, it's another conversation.
No, but it's a good
That one,
example.
I thought that one was interesting in our
You know,
boundaries.
I love that explanation because I am like my intuition tells me when people say I know, just doesn't feel right. And
No, right?
just you've just gone and given a fabulous explanation. I
Yeah.
love that. The
And
words we use are so important.
so important, right? And I understand that for you, words, you see, I stopped myself there. Words are everything. And I believe that this is an actionable step, a real life step, not simply, oh, your words are important, be careful of the words that you use. A true actionable step that maybe the people who are listening will begin to experiment with and see if it makes a difference, not necessarily to somebody else, maybe in how something lands or how somebody hears you or listens to you, but also in the way you choose to communicate.
Mhm.
And once we start choosing one word more carefully, we look at other words. Another word for me is the word just. It's,
Oh, 100%.
I would
Are you talking about when you kind of undermine yourself when you say, I'm just checking in. I
yeah,
just want to know how long it's going to be till you get here.
yeah,
You're kind of undermining yourself.
yeah. And so
Yeah.
I try to either use another word
Yeah.
if it's
Or
appropriate
leave it out. Or
situation,
leave it out.
or leave it out. So I thought that might be a nice place to end for
I
the
love
day,
it.
in some boundary setting or some encouraging positive relationships, which is so much about communication. And we keep talking about, especially you keep talking about how the importance and the gravity of words. And it's not to say that each and every word we need to sit and weigh it,
No,
but
absolutely.
understanding that there are words and phrases in our world that we've always used, that we habitually use,
Sorry,
that
Michal, 1 second. Is
yeah,
is my dog's barking bothering you? Let me
and
just
what,
close the door. Let me just close the door in case.
sure.
Sorry.
So Jodi just stepped out for a sec to close the door, but she is back to close it off. But we hardly. It's very interesting with Zoom. When your sound is set up properly, you don't hear a lot of the background noise.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Oh,
you are
like
right.
if
I
we were
just
trying to
wanted to
listen to
share.
stuff before we got on, you couldn't hear, and I couldn't
Oh,
hear. And I often have it with clients where my dogs go ballistic, and I'm like absolutely distracted by it, and they hear nothing.
no, yeah, okay. That's good. Good to know.
Anyway,
Hmm.
words have meaning. We don't have to weigh every single word with immense gravitas, but understand that there's these phrases or these words that we habitually use that might that their meaning might land better if said in an alternative way.
Hmm. Hmm. I love that. I love what you've just explained there.
And from a communication perspective, I absolutely believe that it will change the way you communicate. I have seen it do it for me. I have seen it do it for clients when I coach them around food as well. Not necessarily with the word no, but with other words. One of them is the word cheat.
Mm.
But again, something maybe to open up a conversation for another time is how
Yeah.
we talk about our food or the word diet,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah. Whenever I use the word diet, when I'm just in conversation, I always feel the need to say, I don't mean that I'm following a diet to lose weight. I'm actually using the word in terms of what, like my nutrition and what I tend to eat. I feel like I have to qualify that if I happen to use the word diet because I'm
But
not dieting.
often I simply replace it with nutrition plan.
I don't often think of it. So when diet comes out my mouth, I feel that you're accustomed to it because it's a
Yeah.
word
I've
that's,
trained I've trained myself to do that,
yeah. Mhm.
right? We train ourselves to do things. Everything
It's
takes
got to
time.
do with connotation as well.
Yeah.
Like you said cheat. You didn't go into it, but I'm assuming you're going to go in the direction of there's connotation to cheat.
Cheat is bad.
Lots
Cheat is
cheat
naughty.
is bad.
And
Hmm.
sometimes we want to be naughty, and there's something provocative about cheating and naughty, and there's so much, and depends on the person. There's so much around that. But I wanted to leave it with the actionable step today of
Perfect.
understanding no and no and KNOW, because I truly believe that's something everybody can at least become aware of
Yeah. Yeah. I
in their
love it.
and not simply aware of how often you say it, but watch responses, or when people say it to you, how does
Notice your
how
that's
does
a
it
good
make
one.
you
When
feel?
people say to you, notice your internal reaction, because that's where you start to get to. That's a good practice for your gut instincts, your intuition.
Exactly. Everything affects everything, right?
Yes, I love it. Oh, this has been
Right.
fabulous. Thank you for that tidbit. I love what I've learned from you.
Always, and likewise, I always say this is my educational experience as well as everybody else's. So, Jodi, always a pleasure. I can't wait to hear how the meeting with the old friend went. You can tell us about that next week.
Can't
I
wait.
I'm excited. I know exactly who it is, and I'm excited to see how that opens up. So, thank you everybody for taking the time. Remember, if you wanted to share this podcast with a friend, you can do that. The best way to always know when we're speaking is to subscribe, hit the subscribe button. That way you'll know when a new podcast is launched. Like us, share us, comments, questions, but down below, we will answer them all. So please feel free. Let us know if you want us to talk about something, if you want us to improve on something, if you really loved something. We're open to all of it. I look forward to hearing from everyone who's listening.
Love
and
it.
talking to you next week.
Look forward to it. Look forward to hearing everyone's comments, seeing everyone's comments. And Michal, it's always nice to see you. See you next week.
See you next week. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.